This is Game Studies India, Adda.
So this is a unique venture in India in for gamers, gaming enthusiasts, game developers, and anybody interested in computer games, which is Game Studies Adda. And if you look at our Facebook page, we've already talked a lot about what an Adda is, and we have had one talk by our member Oritra Bhattacharya as kind of the first as the inaugural lecture in the Game Studies Adda series. But what follows now is actually something that is really in the spirit of Adda, which is a podcast of a discussion between among all of us of what it was like to experience video gaming for the first time. So, welcome to First Encounters, our first encounters or first person encounters, as you will, of video gaming in India. And what we hope to achieve here is to give you a rich picture of uh, the diversity of experiences of uh, people in India experiencing video games. As you know, video games came quite late to India, comparatively late, and certainly after 1984. Uh, and even so, people who did not did not have access to relatives abroad might not have experienced might not have experienced video games as much. But let's talk to this really mixed group from the various different generations. People who grew up in the 90s, the 80s, the 90s, and the early 2000s. And let us find out about our experience of video games in India and our first encounters. So, in this group today, we have uh, Aniket Mojumdar, who is a games scholar and blogger. Oritra Bhattacharya, who is an undergraduate student at Presidency University, Kolkata, and an avid gamer. We have Poonam Chaudhary, who's a games researcher who's doing her PhD actually on video games uh, from FLU, Hyderabad. We have Rico Banerjee, who's um, uh, a games evangelist and gaming enthusiast and gamer. Uh, and we have Shourabh Chattopadhyay, who is a postgraduate student in Presidency University, also interested in gaming, and Shobik Kaur, who is a PhD scholar at IIT Hyderabad, who is also interested in gaming, posthumanism, and nuclear fiction, and so on and so forth. And of course, kind of moderating this discussion is yours truly, Dr. Shobik Mukherjee. I work in Presidency University, and I've been researching games since 2001, 20 years now. So, welcome to the Game Studies Adda podcast number one. Our topic here is first person encounters, first encounters. What was it like to experience games for the first time? And let us start today with Aniket. Aniket, your first experiences of video games in India. Do you want to start?
My first experience would be at the arcade. I think New Empire Cinema. It used to be. I think you are familiar with it, Shobik.
Yes, I am. I am. Go on. Tell us more, and I'm sure we will have all
So,
have.
as far as I remember, I was like really little. I think I went to see the movies with my father, and I don't remember what the movie was, but I remember like in the arcade they had some machines, and there was some kind of games. Like there was a platformer game about some kid going to the jungle or something. I don't remember. So fascination. And after that, I went to a relative's house and saw they had those, the clones, the PS1 clones, and the Nintendo clones, those
So
things.
so so how
Yeah.
how old were you when you first?
When I first saw the arcade,
Yes.
I think I was like 7, maybe 8.
Okay, interesting. So at when you were 7 years old, you went to the arcade in New Empire Cinema, and you started kind of playing this video game. You said it looked like a platformer, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Any vague kind of memories of that time? Really, did your dad allow you to play it? Did you get scolded, or
Yeah,
did
he was kind of amused and kind of like he actually like he was encouraging me,
he play?
which is no, he didn't play, but he encouraged me, which is very ironic because yeah.
So which year was this?
And even when I got my own like video game, those clone things we had, I don't know what they are actually called. I don't know their official names. Even then, I wasn't allowed to play more than like 20 minutes per day.
So what video game
Even
did you
that,
play? When you played those kind of gray market, those clones of PS1 or whatever, what games did you play?
I mostly played whatever it's called, and then there was the Tank Wars or something. And then of course Super Mario Brothers.
Okay. So Super Mario What Brothers Tank Wars. How interesting. Anybody else kind of has experiences like this? When I was very young, of course, I was much older than Aniket when I started playing video games. But I'll come to my story later. But there was a game called Duck Hunt, which I can never forget. You
Yeah,
used
yeah,
to
yeah,
get a
yeah.
real
Yes,
gun.
yes, yes.
Do you guys remember Duck Hunt? I
Yes,
mean, like
father. Yes.
With that
Yeah,
fake rifle, right? That you would aim at the
yes,
TV.
that's right,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
Yes,
There was
those
a very
PS1 clones had a like gun controller which you used to
Oh
aim at the
yes,
TV and shoot.
there was
yes,
a very
Yes.
snarky
Exactly,
dog.
exactly. And it only used to work for glass screen TVs, not
CRT monitor.
Yes,
other.
yes,
oh
yes.
Yes.
yeah.
So I once tried it with one of my friends' TV, and it didn't happen.
No, that's because it was made for those glass screen TVs. Because
So I hit me for a long time. Yes, exactly. So that friend hated me a lot of time because he was very amused by looking at the gun console controller. So that was quite interesting back then.
Yeah. So my father was in the army, so the gun thing was like extra special to me, and I used to think that that the gun had some laser shooting some sort of power in it. I was quite young back then. I was probably just 9, 10 years. Shoot people with it, and obviously it wouldn't work. So that was quite a disappointment.
Yeah,
But
I think we
fun
have all
memories.
tried that.
Yeah,
Probably.
right.
yes,
We have all
I
tried
think
that.
so. But actually, to be
And
honest, there
when
must have been some laser or some technology whereby
yeah,
it was able to, pinpoint the particular section on the screen. Really, but
yeah, yeah.
you wouldn't actually, if you aimed very carefully, you wouldn't shoot any ducks. You had to make a calculation in your head and point the gun and then shoot it accordingly. And then eventually, I got very good at killing ducks.
Yes.
So does anybody remember
I never
Contra?
got good at it. Maybe because yes,
Yeah,
Contra
yes,
was
yes.
fun.
Yes, I do.
Contra.
Contra was nice.
I still play it on my mobile phone on those shitty NAS emulators. There are Contra games given.
But you grew up with Contra. I mean, these are games that Aniket
Yes,
and I
yes,
must have
yes.
grown
Quite
up with, or
Yes,
Poonam for that
exactly.
matter. But you are much
And
younger to us. I mean, you actually, is that the
Yeah.
first game that you ever played? What is the first game that you
No,
ever
my
played?
first game I've ever played that Super Mario Brothers. Super Mario Brothers was my favorite game,
On
and
which console? Or
I
on which kind of platform?
it was I think it was a clone console because it had a keyboard and not
Oh yes.
general
Interesting.
controllers. So it had a keyboard, and in front of the keyboard, there were cartridge holders. So that was
Oh,
there,
yes, yes.
and keyboard with cartridge holders. So yeah, so I don't really know the name of the console, but yes, I started playing with Super Mario Brothers. That was sort of my first experience. Apart from the game, the open world games which I used to play in internet cafes for 10 rupees per hour. I used to go there, and back then it was all about playing Grand Theft Auto, either Vice City or it used to be our guilty pleasures, my friends, because in at house everyone hated and everyone sort of thought that that was blasphemy, but that's why we loved it more, playing that open world game, killing the AIs, the people of Los Santos and those fictional areas. That was fun. Apart from obviously killing Cooper Mario.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes,
So,
yes.
Aniket, now this is turning into a very kind of interesting discussion because Orithro is talking about Grand Theft Auto Vice City as one of the first games he has played. Now, that is like, for me, it was a very new kind of game. I never thought a video game could be like that. When I started playing, it was video games were very, very different from Grand Theft Auto Vice City, for example. Because I don't know if we have played on the same machine on New Empire or Globe Cinema, but I remember that we used the only thing I remember is that there was a submarine, and it was a pixelated like white submarine, like and you would have to dodge different like sharks and monsters with it. uh, and it used to be manipulated by a joystick, and the joystick was very loose. So you would, I mean, basically it was no good really. Most of the time I just see the submarine move, and and the sharks would come and destroy it, because the joystick, the control was kind of useless, and then the coins would run out because you had to put in 1 rupee coins in the platform, sorry, in the
Yeah, I have
arcade machine.
seen the submarine game, and I have also read that that was the inspiration behind the stealth genre, that people were
Wow.
interested about that submarine being undetected and not really full frontal assault. So it was all about hiding and ambushing. So from that, stealth genre was inspired. People who created, they were inspired from that game.
Super. So, anybody else now, or do you want to say a little more, or Aniket, or anybody else wants to take over and talk about your first encounters?
Yeah, Auditro mentioned the cyber cafes. So I didn't have that much experience with the cyber cafes, but I have one memory that we had in our school. We used to have like annual sports. I think we all had in our schools.
Yeah. We all had.
So in the sports days, we had a lot more freedom. Like we could go out whenever we wanted out of the school and everything. So what I did was, me and a few friends, what we did was, uh, at the at the day of the sports, we actually escaped from school. We went to the railway station, and we took a train and went to another station, like 2 stations away. We went to Barrackpur, and actually we went there and we played games and came back by the time the school was finished. So basically, that was the first time I actually bunked school to play video games
To
for
play
two
video
hours.
games.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Do you remember what video games you played?
Yeah, I remember I played. There was a video game made on the first Spider-Man movie, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie.
Ah, yes,
The game was
Right.
actually called Spider-Man the movie,
yes, I
and the
remember.
graphics was really bad. And the Spider-Man used to shoot his webs and swing. He used to shoot. He used to swing through the city by shooting his web on the clouds. That was
Oh,
that bad
wow.
it was. Yeah. Uh,
So,
yeah.
I think
That is so
Amazing
interesting.
Spider-Man 2 did it better. Amazing
Yeah.
Spider-Man 2.
All the Spider-Man games did that better than that game. Yeah,
but
so that is a memory. I remembered it because I was talking about the cyber cafes.
let me
Hmm.
also, for the audience, let me kind of inform the audience that cyber cafes are a thing of the past in India. But there was a
Yes.
time when there were about 100,000 cyber cafes in Delhi alone. Right. And they were doing roaring business
Exactly.
from everywhere, from a place like Jumri Talaya to kind of, not that I have anything against Jumri Talaya, or to kind of Delhi. There were like hundreds and thousands of cyber cafes. Even up there in kind of up, I've seen cyber cafes up in Nathula Pass. so so that was a
Oh,
big
wow.
thing. And they had gaming as well as a big part of their kind of income. So cyber cafes are now virtually non-existent, aren't they? I mean, I don't know if you
Yeah, I
Exactly,
think so.
exactly.
Mm-mm.
I
So
have
this is
one,
early
but
2000, right?
early 2000, yes.
Yeah.
yes, early 2000.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the first Spider-Man movie was released, I think, in 2002 or 2001.
Yeah. I think that was 2002 or 3. Yeah, probably
Yeah.
Yes,
3.
2002.
Yeah.
And I am suddenly reminded of the, I don't know what to call it, stench or whatever in the cyber cafes, because people would just sit there for hours at a stretch and nobody would move and play and play and play all
Yes,
day.
exactly.
There was a
I mean,
certain stench. Sorry. But there was a certain stench, and it just, oh my god, it's so nostalgic. That,
many
the
of the players
hot
there
box
started.
cyber cafes. Hmm.
Many of them started their Counter Strike leagues and stuff
Oh yes.
from there only.
Yes, and I don't know, none of you mentioned Max Payne, but Max
Yes,
Payne
Max
used
Payne.
to be
Yes,
so
Mm,
popular in cyber cafes. I would just see
Max.
Yeah.
like,
I used to play Max Payne on one of my cousin's computer, and because I knew that my cousin would inevitably come and help me, because it was very difficult for me to back then to play third-person shooters, especially Max Payne. So that's why I didn't used to play them on cyber cafes.
so when we are saying this, let us also give the audience an idea of the time period that we are looking at. So what year this was and so on. Then people will understand that, because
It
they
would
get
be
an idea.
around
Yeah.
It would be around 2007 or 8. Yeah, back when I was 7 or 8, yeah, 5, 6 or 7 years old, 2007 or 8, approximately.
right.
So let us move
I
on to
never
some.
had a, yeah,
Punam,
sorry.
yeah, go
I
on.
was
Sorry,
going to say,
my
yeah,
bad, my bad.
yeah, no, it's okay. I was just going to say, since we are talking about cyber cafes, I just wanted to point out that I have never been to a cyber cafe to play. I used to go to download, and get things printed and all that, because, well, it wasn't, cyber cafes
N-
weren't considered safe enough for a girl to go alone
How
into,
interesting.
Yeah, so I was never, even like the cyber cafe owners would be like very shocked if I am spending too much time there. And my parents weren't really happy about it either. So, yeah, I never had that experience. Sad.
Yeah, cyber cafes had that
Yeah,
element
and
of
back in
that.
the day, especially,
It
look,
was
people had this thing
very,
also, that, oh, young boy is coming in here all the time playing violent games. Look at them playing lewd games.
Yeah.
So the women were actually not really, I don't know, I wouldn't say
no,
welcome, but
still
more like it wasn't a very feminine space.
many of the
Mm.
gamers themselves used to be very unsafe for work, sort of.
Yeah. And I remember they used to feel conscious to the moment I would like get the computer next to a bunch of boys, they would feel conscious and they would stiffen up, they would get really awkward, and I was like, okay, all right, I'm
Yeah,
not I'm not here to disturb your gaming experience. But yeah, it was
and
interesting. It was an interesting time.
they used to pause their swearings because
Oh
when I
yes, oh yes.
so I
I
was a little
remember. Oh
boy.
my god. Yes,
So
I mean the
so
moment I
what
would
time was
walk
this?
in,
What time? What?
complete silence. This was
2004, 4 to
2009,
8.
10.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay. Yeah, around that, late 20, and then the first decade of the century. Around that, yeah, sometime around that. So it was interesting. The moment I would walk in, the whole thing would just go silent, and everybody has muted their games, and they're trying to
I
shield
think
their
till
screens. It was fun. It was
I think
fun.
till 2010, most of my friends, gaming for us was like this wild west before it got much more streamlined with consoles and built-in built PCs, pre-built PCs, and sort of like this. This
So
was before 2010. It was like used to be wild that assemble anything and go to anybody's house, and we used to have spare cartridges of spare games, and we used to take it to somebody else's house who had a console. So there we would used to play, and that sort of stuff. So it was before 2010.
So that's a very
Right. Yeah, yeah.
interesting point about assembled PCs. Many people abroad will not understand what an assembled PC is. An assembled
Yes.
PC is basically you go to a computer shop and you buy the different parts of a computer and you take them upstairs to this really dingy place where a man in a singlet is sitting there and he's extremely grumpy and he says, "What do you need?" Blah, blah, blah. And he just kind of he puts together the PC for you and then charges some money. And so again, this was these were the days of not so powerful graphic cards, obviously graphics cards, and I think the consoles were also very few and far between in India around 2009-10. I mean, they started coming in later on.
Exactly. Yes. Console, I still remember among my friends, one of my friend had brought, he wasn't really a friend, he was on the different section. He had bought PlayStation 3, and my mom and other parents were used to speak amongst themselves that, oh my goodness, look, they have spent so many money for buying a console, oh my goodness. And they used to literally be very afraid that what is this thing that costs so much money. And
So
they,
I want to know how many of us have actually played on a console, even now.
I
not
I
have
haven't.
played on a friend's
I have.
console. I have never
I
owned
have.
one.
I have played console games on emulators.
Right.
Rico, have you played console games?
No, actually, I've always been a PC gamer. I did own one of those knockoff consoles, which in West Bengal we used to commonly refer to as a TV video game.
Yes.
Oh
Those were like
yes. Oh yes.
Yes.
They
Yes.
were
PS1 and
fun.
PS2
That
knockoffs.
little one, right?
Huh?
That little computer, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
that
basically, they
that
used to
yeah,
come
yeah.
in different shapes and sizes. Some of them were rectangle in shape. Some of them had like a full
Yeah.
sized keyboard with those cartridge slots.
Yes.
Like
Since
Yeah.
Rico
basically, the
said,
ones without keyboards, they costed around rupees 300, and the ones with keyboard costed around rupees 500.
now,
So
since Rico already said about TV video games, I would like to say that I had an LG TV, a smaller one, and those TVs sometimes used to come with in TV games. Like there used
Oh,
to be
cricket,
if you
right?
go to yes, if you go to the menu of the TV and the settings of the TV, below right at the down below all the options, there used to be a game, and that would be cricket, which would be very fully pixel game, and it would have 3 to 4 colors, like green for the whole page, whole ground, and yellow ochre for the pitch, and the players used
Red.
to be the batsman used to be blue, and the players used to be, I think, red or something like that. I don't
The
really
ball
remember.
was
And
red, I think.
yes.
Yeah. It was such a rage, man. I remember, my God.
Yes.
The kids who had that TV were like the biggest celebrities in the colony.
I
It was
remember
such a rage.
during festivals, my cousins used to come, and we would be doing some tournament about who can score more.
It
So
was such a slow game too. Oh my God.
yes.
It was fun. It was so slow. It
speaking
was
of
so much fun.
cricket, has anybody played Richie Benaud's cricket, which was a DOS-based cricket game?
Yes,
It was very
exactly.
popular.
Yes.
So Shobhik, Shorab, you haven't spoken at all. If you want to tell us about your first experiences, whatever they may be. I mean,
My first encounter with a video game was triggered by my school curriculum. It was, I think, the year 2005 or 6. I was a student of class 3 or maybe 4. We had computer classes in the curriculum, and for practice, I had to go to one of my neighbor's place. I didn't have any computer back then. There, I saw someone who I call Boomba Dada. Boomba Dada was playing a game. That was the first time I saw someone playing a video game. The game was Counter Strike. Yeah. So naturally, he started explaining the game to me, and obviously, he went on playing and didn't let me even touch his computer. Then I complained to my mother that দেখো বুম্বা দাদা আমাকে use করতে দিচ্ছে না. বুম্বা দাদা doesn't let me touch his computer. So on my next birthday, I got a computer of my own. It was not actually a computer, but a gaming device that Rico talked about, I think. The device looked like a mini computer. I remember it had only one game there. Some blocks would fall from the top, and the
Tetris.
gamer
Tetris.
had to, yeah. So
Tetris, yes.
the gamer had to destroy those blocks. So that was the first game that I learned to play on my own.
so going back, well, to 1995, which was the time when I first played my video game, first video game, which was also in school, because we suddenly, because of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi and Sam Pitroda, India wanted to go into computing, and the school curricula started bringing in computers. So we had to learn GW Basic or Basica or Q Basic. And well, then like in class 5, and nobody wanted to, actually 1990, sorry, I'm wrong, 1990. So 1995 I was in class 10. I was already programming in basic, but in 1990 what they would do is they would put all the kids into the computer center, and we would have to take off our shoes. It's a
Oh,
computer
yes.
center is like God, so take off your shoes. We would have take off our shoes. They were all air conditioned places as well, so we would get to sit in the AC for one period, 45 minutes, and they would switch on the computer. These were BBC microcomputers or IBM PCs, really old, and they there we would play a game called Dig Dug. There was a little mole that would kind of dig through different places. It was like a Dave, or we would play something like Dave or Dig Dug or something like that. And we would play out of floppy disks. So one floppy was inserted. And back in those days, the floppies were really floppy. They were those 5 inches floppies. Not 5 inches, they were the 7 inch floppies, the big ones. And you could actually really fan yourself with the flip flops. And then there were the smaller floppies came in, and then yeah, which I think have you seen floppy disks, guys? I mean, I
Yeah, I
Yes,
have
yes,
played
Yeah,
on
I've
yeah,
floppy
seen.
yeah,
disk.
I've,
yes.
great.
Mm.
I still possess a few floppy disks well, just for nostalgic value. And back in those days, then I remember we had to do a computer project, and I went to Excite to my mother's office because I didn't have a computer. And after her working hours, the computing guy took me to his computer, and he started showing me, letting me practice my programs. And then he showed me Wolfenstein, and I was
Ah.
fascinated. How could the world be like this? This is such a fantastic thing. And and before that, I remember I went to the Eastern Railway office. The Eastern Railway office had very good computers, and they showed me a graphic kind of thing, a program that they ran. It was like making a skeleton dance. That was my first experience with computer animation. But so this is like a long, long time ago, and when we were not allowed to play games, we were made to sit at other computers where there was a game called Logo, and it said "Welcome to Logo." And you've played Logo, you've worked on Logo. It's like a
Yes,
graphic
yes,
software.
yes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, the commands are
We
like
used
show
to,
turtle, hide turtle, and there was a little
Yes.
turtle. Yeah,
and we
Yeah,
used to
yeah.
say RT90 for 90
Yeah, yes,
degree,
yes.
or
Yes.
for
yes,
the
yes,
right.
that's right, that's right. So yeah,
Yeah. In school, we used to have logo for exams also.
Yes.
Yeah, like when I was in class 4, we had logo in our syllabus.
Yes.
So, well, I
This
mean,
is actually really interesting because I remember back in my time, say this is probably 2010 or something like that, when just like as Saurabh said that we were starting out on our computer science classes, and I remember that I had to go out and go for private tuitions. So I used to go and take private tuitions from this guy called Dinesh, and we used to call him Dangerous Dinesh, obviously naming him after Dangerous Dave, uh, because of the fact that that was one of the games installed in his computer. And what he used to do was that we had to solve the questions that he would set us, and if the person who solved it first would be rewarded by letting them have a go at the games in his computer, about say for 15 minutes or something like that. So that was how most of us faced, sort of had our first encounters with games in Dinesh's computers. The first game I ever played was Prince of Persia, Jordan McNair's Prince of Persia. It was lovely. We really couldn't go all the way because obviously it was a 60-minute game supposed to be played in a 60-minute game, but we only had 15 minutes. But we had fun. But the most interesting thing I remember was that when our school actually started letting us go to the computer practical rooms, where for a while only the senior most students in our school would be allowed. But we were fine. The rules were laxed, and we were the first batch who I think it was in class six. Yes, I was in class six back then. So we were probably the first batch of class six who got an opportunity to go sit in those computer labs and all that. And as you said, it was very sacrosanct. So we had to take off our shoes and leave them out, and then enter it as if almost entering a temple and all that. But something we gradually found out was that somebody, or probably a teacher, probably had installed Max Payne in one of the computers. All right, and this
Oh
was the
yes.
and these were the old cathode ray tube computers. All
yes,
right,
yes,
so
yes.
some
Oh.
yes, so
So
somebody had managed.
we always had those teachers, you know, the teachers who would always play
Yes.
video games, one
Yes,
computer or the other. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so grateful for those teachers.
yes,
Thank
and
God.
back in my school, I remember we used to have like a particular hierarchy of computer teachers. Like some of them would be called lab assistants, and the others would be called computer teachers. The lab assistants would be
Hmm.
spending, a gala time the entire day inside the computer lab. It was a nice time to be inside the computer lab because it was the only place with AC. So obviously,
Yeah.
and they were also the most cool people because they were the ones who played their entire time gaming, spent their entire time gaming over there. They were the ones who actually installed those games and who knew which PCs actually had those games. Uh, and there was a huge lot of I remember the games used to sort of migrate between the PCs because very often the
Oh
principal would
yes,
come
yes,
for checking.
I remember.
The principal would come and check the PCs when somebody would rat us out to her, and then the games would have to migrate from one computer to another to, and then maybe probably even take a little bit of hiatus before it came back. So it was fun, and I remember that very often when we sat down to do our programs, our early programming, we used to sort of search through the computer first to see whether it had any game or not. And well, if it had a game, then when the teacher's back is turned, let's just open Counter Strike or Max Payne and let's start playing. Right. Right. So we understood pretty well how to play a windowed game and all that. We never used to play it on full screen, and we always ensured the fact that people who wore spectacles actually play in a way in which somebody obscured or somebody was sitting in front of them, so that our teacher wouldn't be able to see the reflection on his glasses. So
Right.
these are the little things that we used to do back then. Obviously it's pretty nostalgic now to talk about that, and to think that these were the things that we used to do at one point of time. Like even the cathode ray tube is almost a dinosaur right now.
Well,
It feels
almost. It
strange.
is. You don't see
Yeah,
a CRT
yes,
monitor now.
yes, it feels almost strange to say the word cathode ray tube. Right, it's almost because
Yes.
we never thought of them as cathode ray tubes. Like those were the only computers back in our time. So like, and then finally when the LCDs came in, we were like, wow. To us, it was like,
Mm.
this is the first wall, man.
Yeah.
That's what we thought of those devices back then as when we started playing our games. I think those devices came into our practical classes probably in our class 10, and then oh well, it was a game world. Everybody started playing games. Each and every computer used to have games installed in it. We would come with our copies and then install games over there. So these are certain privileges that senior most students had, because of the rapport that could be built up with the computer teachers and all that. So it was pretty fun back then. It was pretty fun back then. I remember, and it
But
sort of became a.
but Shobik, I
So,
was wondering, none of you said anything about the switch from CDs to USB drives, because there was a
oh
time when
yes, oh
games
yes,
used to have to be
Mm.
CDs.
smuggled in
Yes,
on CDs, and the teachers would look for CDs in your bags, and
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
then all the whole games could be copied on USB drives, and then those would be taken in, and then it was more
yes. I remember
difficult to.
actually. Actually, the people who with the most game CDs in our school sort of got almost a celebrity status.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most of them behaved like drug dealers back in their time, right?
And the
So like,
teachers appointed
you
the
are
students.
you're passing the CDs under the desk. All right, you're simply looking around and checking that nobody is watching. You're meeting at secluded corners of the courtyard or campus to sort of pass on the CDs and all that. It was great fun, and we always ensured that whoever got caught with the series got caught only by the computer teachers, because at least then we might have a way of getting those things back from them. If somebody got caught by the principal or somebody who didn't play games, then it was bye bye for us for the entire city.
But
There
it
was
was
no chance of
also
getting that back
the
again.
culture of CD writing and pirated
Oh yes.
CDs, because some you would just always wait to get somebody. Uh, I don't know when did you start getting your own computers, which was and by the way, before I go into this, I just want to ask Poonam about her school experiences. I'm sure you had
Oh,
computer
yeah.
classes, and was it like, did you play video games there? What was it like? Because it might be very different in a girls' school, really. I don't know, but I'm just.
I was not in a girls' school. I was in army school.
Oh,
So
okay, interesting.
we had a very different sort of a discipline. And plus, as I said, my father was in the army, right? So I had to change a lot of schools throughout my schooling age. So almost every single school would have a different sort of a vibe, different sort of an understanding, different sort of a computer teacher. But yeah, the common thing was definitely that the computer classes were meant for gaming. That's how it just became. But for I don't know if you also noticed, if the others also noticed this, but girls were always, I don't know if it was just like that back then, but girls would somehow just occupy themselves with these word art things and MS Paint and
Oh,
whatnot, and the
okay.
boys would huddle together and play Vice City and all sorts of things together. It was like very segregated. It was strange, but it was like that for a lot of years. I mean honestly, I have never seen girls huddling together and playing a game. And I mean that was something very interesting that happened in my all of my school days. And yeah, I
It's
remember Auto Vice City.
pretty similar right now also. I mean,
Yeah, right. I mean,
two of my many of my friends are girls, but only one or two of them actually have interest in video games, and even then it's not like that they are going to play and everybody else is going to see
because the
them playing.
peer, I think it depends on the, it's exactly like, yeah, exactly, because the circles that we also like grow up in and play with and interact with,
Exactly.
right? So
Mm.
I never found a group, never found a community like that where I could just discuss games when I, especially when I was younger. When I grew older, and as my brothers grew older, I mean, my brothers and my brothers are twins, by the way, that's why I'm saying brothers, and they are 12 years younger to me. So they are around 16 years now. So I am learning about
Mm.
a lot of games because of them. And it's strange because they started getting exposure to video games as early as when they were 5, 6, 7 years old, perhaps. And it was interesting. And I never got that exposure. It was fascinating to me because I think the circle really matters. What I mean, it's kind of gendered. The exposure to video games is quite gendered that way. So
Mm.
my exposure, first exposure with video games, was definitely Auto Vice City, but it was strange. I used to just look at the boys playing together, and they would always huddle together, right? And they wouldn't let you see the game that they are playing, and they'll be like, "Oh, ladki ho, so stay away. You're a girl, so stay away. Stay in your lane," sort of a thing. Uh, but after I grew a little older, when I got into college, but yeah, no. But still, I mean, my father was quite digitally advanced like that. I mean, he got my first computer. I don't know if it was some old computer that he got from somewhere, but it was a black and white computer. And I was, I think, in class third or fourth. So it wasn't even, it was 1998 or something. And yeah, my first game was Logos. That was the first thing I ever did on a computer. It was so fascinating. And slowly then we had a colored monitor. So then I think I got Pac-Man. My father and I used to love playing Pac-Man together
Uh,
when I was a child.
Yes,
And
not many
yeah,
of us have mentioned Pac-Man. That is true. Thank you for
yeah,
bringing Pac-Man into it.
it was the most amazing game of, I mean, it was the most fascinating game I had played at that point. There was a cute yellow thing and it was playing around. There were cute ghosts and it was just so fascinating. And it was on a colored screen. So all the more reason to be just wowed by it. And even
when I
today, I was just
was
looking up Pac-Man. There's a Google Doodle. If you just look up Pac-Man, it automatically takes you to a Google Doodle where you can actually play Pac-Man today.
Yes,
So
yes,
it's really
it does.
interesting.
Yes.
I am
Yeah,
a huge Pac-Man player. Uh, uh,
I love Pac-Man. Oh my
I
god.
remember
Initially,
so when I was working
initially,
in Excite.
yes.
Now tell me,
Hmm.
or to tell us, yeah.
Yeah, so initially I used to hate Pac-Man because I couldn't even complete one level, so it was very frustrating. But
It
soon I
was
got hold.
difficult, man. It was
Yes,
difficult.
later on when I grew up when I was around when I was in my adolescence back when I wanted to play games and I had a computer, but I my mom and dad wouldn't buy me games. So back then I used to go up on the internet and search for browser-based games, and so then I again found Pac-Man and started playing then, and that was the time when I got hold of the character AIs and their behavior patterns, and then Pac-Man became a very fun game for me. But initially, I used to hate Pac-Man a lot.
So
And the
no,
computers
what
would crash all the time, right? I mean,
yes,
back then the computers were not ready to handle such things.
it's true.
So yeah,
So
it was fun.
I don't know what none of you have mentioned the handheld games that we used to get. I
Oh
don't know.
yeah,
Yeah,
it looked like a
Games.
flat thing. It had Tetris. It had some car racing. I don't remember what was this thing's name.
Brick
It was some
game. Like
handheld.
that was the word that was
Yeah.
written on
Yeah.
it.
Yes. Yeah, it was a break game. Yes,
Yeah,
I think
also
that was
there
my
used to be
yeah.
like these like very plasticky things which would have water filled in them, and there used to be some sort of hoops.
They would be
There will
sold
be
in
used
trains.
there used to be so very small hoops which you need to
Yes.
press the air buttons, and the hoops need to be placed right at the center. So this
And
was the thing.
the buttons wouldn't even work. They won't last. They never lasted for me. I
Exactly.
don't know. Because used to press them so hard and they would not work. And they used to be sold at these fairs and trains and everywhere. It was a lovely time.
well, I used to
Oh,
get
and then the
mine
next wave.
smuggled.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I
Oh,
used to get
oh, wow.
smuggled because in those in my days they were not available here, so we would get them across the border from Bangladesh from Nepal, and
Nepal.
yeah,
Yeah.
or
Oh
actually
my God.
they were all
Yes.
Hong Kong. They were everybody said they were made in Hong Kong. Most of the things that we bought were made in Hong Kong. This was the days of the license Raj, when things were very
Uh,
difficult to come by. But yes, so handled games, and I remember there was a game A and game B. So I was like so amazed when I saw this. One of my friends had it, and he could play two games in one machine. And I mean, now that I mean, that was the first time I saw Donkey Kong, and I was amazed.
oh,
Hmm.
But then,
And then somebody else. Yeah. Sorry.
as you were saying, that they're very difficult to play sometimes these games. So,
Yeah.
well, okay. So,
And
well,
as somebody mentioned cassette games, I was just getting into cassette games. Like
Uh-huh.
if there's something interesting happen. So I grew up in cantonments all over. So there was a new wave that suddenly came, and people were like, "Oh my God, your daughter is not playing this computer game. You have to get her digital." And so there was something about computer education thing that was happening. So everybody was buying that set, the cassette cartridge thing that would come with a keyboard and with that gun and everything. So that's how it was advertised in the cantonment. I don't know how it was advertised everywhere else, but suddenly every parent was buying that for their kids. And I think for most of us, that's how it started. Like our parents bought it for quote unquote educational reasons, but it ended up being something else. So that was quite interesting. That it was a cantonment thing or not, I'm not sure, but that was really fun.
So, well, I mean, let's hear from others as well about the first encounters. We have spoken for quite a while, so we'll just kind of maybe wrap up our chat today. But any more kind of first encounter reactions, expressions from uh, all the members gathered here? Okay, uh, there's kind of resounding silence, uh, but I'm just kind of thinking because when this is of course much later when I started working after my college days. I started working in Excite House as a public relations officer, and my boss
Okay.
would play Pac-Man all the time, and he would set records on Pac-Man. So he would go into the hundreds of thousands in scores, really. And once the chairman wanted to talk to him, and he was on the phone, where is he? So I was about to say he's playing Pac-Man. He's creating a record, a world record of Pac-Man. But but somehow, well, we managed to kind of like keep the chairman at bay. My boss finally did not manage the world record in Pac-Man, but then yeah, this is, I mean, these are
It's a
experiences
fascinating
that, yeah,
story, actually.
fascinating, yeah, fascinating, absolutely fascinating. I mean, he never played any other game in his life, but he just kind of played Pac-Man and continually. So yeah, so then again, kind of just to then wind up our discussion, if we have any last kind of thoughts. We started with Oniket talking about the arcade machines in New Empire, and then we've gone through Grand Theft Auto Vice City in cyber cafes, and we've gone into how children played video games in cantonments and which computers were coveted, and the hidden reasons for computers getting computers and the obviously overt reasons. So we've got into many things. We've also got into how school computer classrooms were sometimes were havens for playing computer games, and we've got into CDs, copying CDs. What we did not talk about was pirated CDs, but I'm sure many of you have used. Uh, Many of you have used original computer games, but I'm sure they're few and far between, and
No.
most of our experiences are with pirated CDs. But then, well,
Yes.
let us hear more. I think we've lost a couple of members while talking here, but I'm sure they'll add themselves back on. So, in the meantime, then let us kind of start winding up this discussion, and
Yeah.
maybe last few thoughts on the first encounters before we end our first podcast of uh, game studies. Adda.
The last thing I
I
want to
think
mention is
something.
sorry.
No, Poonam, go ahead.
All right. So the last thing that I wanted to mention was playing games on the phone for the first time. That was Nokia 3310 and Snake
Yeah,
Zenzia and
Snake.
Space
Yeah.
something. There was a Space something game on it. I think that changed. That was really life changing. I would say. I mean, I used to be on the phone playing tick 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 all the time. It was my parents used to be so annoyed at that, but that was, I think, the first time I played a game on the phone. And then, of course, smartphones came, and of course, then the games, uh, complete. Then the gaming culture kind of, I wouldn't say shifted, but definitely we got a bigger population because of the smartphone gaming culture.
About playing bounce, like anyone remembers playing bounce? Like there's a red ball you have to had to take it
Okay.
from.
Yeah, one of those
Oh,
earlier
right.
phones with cameras that would have like a full
Oh
QWERTY
yes,
keyboard.
yes. Oh
Have you guys
yes. Oh
forgotten about
yeah.
Snake? Did anybody have
Exactly.
Nokia?
Punam mentioned Snake.
Snake Zenzi.
Oh, you
I
mentioned
just
Snake.
said
Sorry,
Different
sorry,
variations
sorry.
of Snake.
Zenzi.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry.
It was so
And we also
amazing.
had football and cricket games in later Nokia phones. Those were in
Yeah, we used
color.
to fight with our parents, like, please get me the new one. Not get me, but used to be like, oh, you get the best, most modern phone so that we can play on your phone. Back in the day, of course, not everybody could afford a cell phone.
And then when the earlier smartphones came, like back then, Temple Run used to be really popular.
Temple Run, oh yes, Fruit Ninja, Temple Run, Angry
So,
Birds. Oh
so
my
very,
God.
very quickly then, I mean, Angry Birds for me is like yesterday almost. But when did you guys start owning phones? When were you first given phones?
I was given
My
in
first
college.
phone was a right.
Yeah.
For me, my first phone, it was a black and white phone that I got when I finished my 10th grade.
What make was it?
So, sorry, I don't remember the model. It was some Nokia phone. I think it was just the next version of this Nokia 3310, or maybe not. It was some
Yes,
black and
yes.
white cheap phone. It was some cheap phone, basically. So that was my first phone that I got when I was, 15, 16 years old.
And which
And then I
year
got
was
my
this?
first smartphone. Oh, this was 2008.
Okay,
Yeah, this was 2008.
okay.
Yeah. And then I got my first smartphone. I had saved up a lot of money and I had done some freelance work. I think that was 2014 when I got my first smartphone.
And Aniket, you were saying that you got your first phone in college, like
Yeah,
me.
yeah. That was 2006 or 7, I think.
And was it a smartphone or was it kind of like a feature phone? Like,
It wasn't actually a smartphone, but it was one of those old color phones, like the first color phones.
right,
Yeah,
right, right.
the colored phones, yes.
That's what I used to play bounce all the time. I remember.
I used
Anybody
to be a
else?
total snake game fanatic. I used to play that all the time.
Anyone else kind of wants to talk about phone gaming and your first experience in playing with on the
I
mobile
would
phone?
say that when I got my first smartphone, which was in class 11, in my higher secondary.
So
So,
which year
and
was this? Which year was
those
this?
time, it was 2015, 16.
Okay.
That time. So back then, it was a rage about Clash of Clans. All of my friends used to play Clash of Clans very religiously, I would say. And I also went and tried playing, but since I had already experienced Age of Empires and games like those, Clash of Clans didn't really interest me. So then I started searching for different games I since I had Android, so different obscure games in like Play Store. So and then I found that there are many fantastic hidden gems which aren't available on Play Store. So that's how I started play. I played Thomas Was Alone, which was a very fun platformer, and I also played a mobile version of Dead Space, which was surprisingly the main protagonist in that version of Dead Space had a voice. So that was very fun because other Dead Space main protagonists didn't have that. So yeah, I would say this about my experience with mobile gaming.
So uh, I think we are coming to the end of this discussion. We had some really fascinating observations on kind of uh, people playing games on their
You
phones. But then, uh, I mean, I'm kind of like intrigued that if, by Oritro started by talking about the Play Store, but many of us have started playing on the phone when there was nothing called the Play Store. Uh,
Yeah.
so we were we
Oh, I
had
did.
no. Yeah, go on. Sorry. Who we were not kind of, many of us did not have
Uncle
the.
and aunt or my mom and dad wouldn't. My many of my wouldn't give me those mobiles, so I couldn't play those games
Mhm. So
before PlayStation, Play Stores, before Play Store. Yes.
okay. So any more thoughts on any more thoughts on mobile gaming? Any more thoughts on first encounters of games, things that we might have missed out and that we might
Yeah. Do
want?
you remember the CDs we used to get with the magazines, like
Yes,
Digit?
cheap and digit. That's right. That's right. So will you
Mm-hmm.
talk about those a little bit, Aniket, or somebody? If,
I don't remember much, but I remember I played Max Payne from there, from the demo they provided with the CDs. They used to provide a lot of demos, so I played more demos back then than I did, full version games.
does anybody remember the gaming magazines called Score and Compute Star or Computer Star? Uh,
Uh,
Anybody read this gaming magazine called Score back
Oh
in the days?
no, I have
no.
Interesting. I
no,
have
no,
a
I have
full
never read.
collection of Score. Even now, I
Wow.
take a few. Yeah, when I was in England, my parents used to send me the Score magazines by post. So, like every 6 months or 4 months, I would get like Score in the post. So, yeah.
Wow.
So every few months you scored.
Well, let's not let's not say that. Well, it's one
What?
way.
But weren't such magazines available in England by then? I mean,
Yes, yes, but I wanted my Indian because I was a games researcher, so I wanted to
right.
find out what was happening there. I don't know if you've looked at Score. If you It's really an unfortunate name. Well, thank you and no thank you, Aniket, for well that.
Maybe we could cut out that part. I don't
Yes,
know.
but uh, I suppose let's leave it be. It'll be fun for people who
It
listen
will
to
be
it.
fun.
But the reporting was horrible. The reporting was absolutely terrible. It's still like that today, and it's now part of the Digit. If you take Digit, then they give you a free volume. It's not free. It's like
Mhm.
Score. So if you take the Digit magazine, then you get like well,
Oh,
yeah.
so Score is an Indian magazine,
Yes,
in
yes,
Indian brand,
yes.
Indian company.
In
Oh,
England, we used to
okay.
read Edge and Games TM. Games TM has
Okay.
recently shut down, but Edge is still going strong.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't actually know that
Interesting.
there is an Indian magazine on games.
Yeah, I am checking
Okay.
it out on my
It's not.
computer
It was
right
not
now.
about
It seems
games
nice.
specifically. It was
Score
just about
TV.
computers.
Yeah.
No, no, no.
Score
Okay.
magazine.
Score is on games. On kids. Score is on games. Digit
Acha,
was
acha, acha.
on computers, and Digit would,
Acha.
Computers.
initially Digit was kind of the only thing that we had, which would give us like free demos, and they would have
Yeah, yeah.
shareware, and it was really annoying because you reached this really nice level, and then you had to stop or pay, or you could
Acha.
not pay because it was so hugely expensive back in those days.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like I never
Yeah.
remember playing more than the Hittite part of the Age of Empires, because the rest of it you had to pay for.
Ah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
and pirated games were also pretty difficult to get back in those days. When the time
Yeah,
Aniket is talking
we
about.
used to pay like 100 rupees per DVD when DVD first came
Yes,
available
yes, that's right, that's right.
for
Yeah,
pirated games.
basically, like in Kolkata, there's like in Gadiahat, Kolkata, like they openly used to sell pirated DVDs, and basically those games didn't have any value, but the money was based on how many DVDs there
Yeah,
were.
yeah,
Like if it's
exactly.
a
So,
8 GB game, then that means there will be two DVDs. And
yeah.
as far as I remember, back in 2010s era, like each DVD costed around rupees 50, so two DVD rupees 100. And for games like GTA 5, there were like 12 DVDs and it was around rupees 600, which they would sell
So
for rupees 550 just to get customers.
so this is the time when DVDs
Mm.
were slightly cheaper, but when what Aniket is talking about is the time when DVDs were also a novelty. So that was
Ah.
those times I remember it was 100 rupees per DVD.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
would charge
Oh,
100
They used
okay.
to
rupees
come
for one
in
DVD.
boxes and stuff. Then later, like people started selling DVDs just in like a
Yeah,
plastic package. But
plastic
in earlier
packets.
days,
Yeah.
they used to sell it in like full boxed thing.
Yes, yes, that's right. So once again, we are running out of time, and well, again, thanks to all of you for your participation in this, and we look forward to our later podcasts with eminent guests, and we will announce this very soon on the Facebook page and various other social media platforms. So I'm going to say thank you to all of you for being part of this. Let us all say goodbye and carry on in the next issues of the Game Studies Adda podcasts. Once again, thank you for sharing your first encounters.
Thank
Thank you so much,
you.
Shobik.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye.